Hey, everybody. Today, I want to talk to you about what's going on in our crazy economy and what you can do to better position yourself and your family to weather through this strange economic time that we happen to be in. Now, if you're like me, you're obviously seeing prices steadily creep up everywhere. The price of groceries is up, gas is up, toilet paper, paper towels, soap, toothpaste are all up. Even larger expenses like car insurance, it's all going up. And unfortunately, once prices go up, they tend to stay up. Now, look, I want to say right off the bat that this isn't a political video or a partisan post. It's just a quick reality check for many of us Latinos living today. So the question is, what are we as Latinos supposed to be doing about it? Well, we obviously do what we've always been doing, and that is prioritizing our families. But some of us have to start planning a little bit smarter, regardless of what period of our lives we happen to be in. Now, there's no doubt that Latino Americans, Chicanos, are feeling the heat of inflation. And you already know that we have been for some time now. Well, we're going to do what we've obviously always been doing, and that is prioritizing our families. But some of us have to start planning a bit smarter, regardless of what period of our life that we happen to be in. Now, no doubt inflation has eaten into every American household, but its impact has been specifically severe on Latino families. A look at some recent data tells a dark financial story for some Latino families. While the national median household income for the average American family rose 4% in 2023, Latino families saw just a tiny increase of 0.4%. That's not good at all. In fact, that's about a tenth of the growth rate compared to non Latino homes. Now, there may be different reasons for this massive economic disparity, such as racism, historical barriers. Many lower paying jobs, for example, have limited earning potential right off the bat. The possibility of limited access to investment tools, whatever the reason, as a result, Latino families are finding it super hard to keep up with rising costs and providing basic necessities. But let's be real, you won't be seeing any of us crying about this on TV. Now, coming off the heels of the pandemic and now tariffs and market uncertainty, it's making a tough situation even harder. In fact, the data shows that nearly 37% of Latino adults report serious challenges affording basic things like food and utilities. Even more concerning is 53% of Latino families lack emergency savings to cover at least 1 month of expenses, leaving them vulnerable to unexpected financial setbacks. This lack of emergency savings, struggling to increase income, and other systemic barriers can really make Latino families vulnerable to rising costs. All right, so what can we do about it? Well, today I want to talk to you about some of the small to larger things that can help Latino families navigate these financial challenges that we happen to find ourselves in. First things first, we have to start small. What can we do today to address things right now? Even the tiniest of changes can put you and your family in a stronger financial place this month. These steps include cutting costs on everyday non essential items, also finding new ways to earn as well as protect our money, and creating strategies that will help us navigate rising prices and build long term financial stability. Now, you've heard this before, but we have to budget and budget smart. What do I mean by budget smart? First, it means having an awareness of just where our money is going. For example, do you know that 60% of people, when asked, don't know how much they spend every month? Next, determine what is and what isn't important. Choose only the necessities and then grow from there. For example, did you know that the average American household wastes about $1,500 a year on unused subscriptions? That's like throwing away a month of rent or 2 months of groceries for a small family. Start with the low hanging fruit. Review your subscriptions on your phone or other devices. Where can you tighten things up? For example, can you pack your lunch for work at least 2 or 3 times a week? Look, I used to work in a large organization with about 300 or so people. There were tons of social people there that loved to grab lunch every day. I often found myself getting lunch with friends nearly every day, it seemed like, and it can cost 10, 15, sometimes $20 a day. You multiply that by 12, 13, 14 lunches a month, and I was looking at well over $200. Do the math, that was over $3,000 a year. Now, that habit got real expensive really quickly, but out of necessity, I had to start bringing my own lunch. All right, let's take a look at our banking. Chances are you're being charged hundreds of dollars every year from your own bank. Look, many of these big banks aren't loyal to you, and in fact, they're hoping that you're too lazy to switch banks. Look, if you haven't done so already, check out your local bank. Credit union. Local banks and credit unions offer low fees or often low fee accounts. Bigger banks often charge up to $15 a month to simply keep your money with them. To me, this is unacceptable. Now, in addition to lower fees, credit unions often pay more interest on the money that you do have with them. All right, switching gears and let's talk about your income. Now, it's not always easy, but it is possible to boost your income. Your income doesn't have to stay stuck. You've obviously got ideas, you have drive, you're smart. So let's put all that to work. If you feel like it's time for a raise, don't go in demanding a raise. Rather, come to your manager, ask what you can do to improve yourself and put yourself in a situation where you can actually get a raise. Oftentimes, this is more effective. Now, of course, saving money is important and budgeting is vital, but your earning potential is the engine that drives it all. Look, there's only so much that you can save, but your earning potential is limitless. So if you need to, consider an additional part time job or freelancing opportunity. Look, we can go back and forth about wealth inequalities that are obvious in the United States. We can talk about why it's unfair to have to work two or more jobs. I get it. But if you have goals, then making more money is often the solution. Now, a medium term idea is to consider getting additional skills, even if you're just dusting off that degree with an online course or training program. These can help you qualify for better paying positions. Now, if you're already at a job that you like, but feel that you're possibly underpaid, as I mentioned earlier, consider asking for a raise, but start by asking your boss what steps that you can take to increase your value and work towards that raise. Let's quickly talk about debt. As you know, debt can feel very heavy, like you're stuck in the mud. But the good news is that there's always a way forward, and it starts with knowing your options. With debt, you have to plug the spending leak. Now, sometimes debt can come from an emergency, a health situation, but more often than not, it comes from our spending habits. So plugging in the leak will be key. Let's start with the obvious. First, you have to stay away from high interest loans. Sometimes you get in a bind and need the money fast, but payday loans, avoid them if you can. Look for low interest alternatives from credit unions or nonprofit lenders. Consider consolidating your existing debt. You might want to combine your debts to a lower interest rate or simplify your monthly payments. Now, when it comes to this, there are a few things that you want to watch out for. So, I'm going to cover this in more detail in another video. Okay, let's get into something a little bit more complex to talk about, and that is addressing some resources and programs that are available to most American families. Number one on that list is the Earned Income Tax Credit. That's the EITC, and this could be a huge income booster, providing nearly $8,000 a year for families with three kids or more. And this is crazy to think about, but nearly 20% of people who qualify don't utilize this credit. Often it's because of lack of awareness. So if you know someone who may qualify, look into it. It will remain available till 2025. Now, to claim your credit, you must first file a federal tax return, even if you owe no taxes. You'll also need a valid Social Security number, and you must have been a U.S. citizen for a full year. Now, these rules often change, so check with the IRS guidelines every year. Even if you don't qualify, maybe your cousin, your sister, your brother, someone that you know does. So send this video to them. All right, now I want to talk to you about the Lifetime Learning Credit. This credit can reduce your taxes if you or your family member is paying for education, even if it's just one course to boost your skills. This annual credit can save you up to $2,000 every year. All right, let me just quickly talk about some ideas that can save you money this month. I want you to get out your phone and cancel 2 subscriptions. Doesn't matter what it is, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Channel. Look, if you haven't used it in 30 days, then you're likely not going to use it. Of course, look, you can always sign up again if you need to. Next, I want you to look at one of your recent bills and call the bill provider and negotiate a better deal, whether it's your internet, your phone, your car insurance company. Call them and renegotiate. Basically, just call them up and tell them that you want a better deal that you currently have. Ask them, how can I save money? Chances are they're going to try to work with you because they don't want to lose you. Next, go into your email box and unsubscribe from your retailer emails that you used to purchase from. The less temptation in your inbox means less impulsive purchases. Now, when I was a kid, my family weathered through some tough economic times. The late 1970s, 1980s, and again in the 1990s, we all had to make changes, hard changes, and it wasn't easy. Latino families have a long history of resilience and adaptability despite economic hurdles. Now, by making deliberate moves, leveraging available resources, and making informed decisions, and of course, supporting each other, we can navigate these challenges and build a more secure financial future for ourselves and our family. All right, taking action today is key, whether it's looking into claiming an additional tax credit next year, or looking into a course, or unsubscribing. Trust me, every step forward counts. All right, now I need you to do me a favor. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. If there's some financial topic that you want to know about or you feel is impacting Latino families, please drop it in the comments below. See you next time.